Welcome to today's culinary seminar. My name is Chef Gonring, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to provide you with our latest research findings to keep your menus fresh. As we look at our agenda, we will quickly cover our research process and then take a deep dive into the latest insights that we gathered from our street-level studies in New York and in Chicago. This was the 19th year we have conducted our proprietary external research in the three largest trend-driving cities in the US, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. These cities incubate the ideas where trends start and influence chefs around the country. We seek out newly open restaurants here because they're the ones that drive innovation. In this presentation, you will see specific opportunities gathered from just New York and Chicago, since our Los Angeles research tour is still on the horizon. Let's look further at our process. The vast majority of the year, we are carefully examining publications, digital newspapers, magazines, journals, and blogs that call out new restaurant openings. These include Eater New York, LA, Chicago, Grub Street, New York Times, Time Out, and Infatuation, just to name a few. We notate these restaurants and track their progress throughout the year. This becomes our target list. As we approach our annual research, we vet these targets out by visiting their websites, studying their menus, looking at their social pages, and reading what praises are out there. Each year, we target an average of 500 new concepts, and our goal is to select and visit 120 of them in a 3-week period while tasting 1,200 dishes. This would all be for naught if we didn't create the actionables and resources once our research has concluded. At each location we visit, we scan their menus, as they are often different from what we find online. We take notes upon tasting each dish and photograph each plate presentation. All this information is compiled between the three cities, and from it, we decipher the newest trends we can take to our customers. We have over 9,000 recipes that we have standardized and kitchen tested over the years that are created directly from our street-level research. These are readily available to our sales and marketing teams as a resource to consult with you, our customers. Here is our map of Chicago from our latest round of research and the places we visited. In total, we visited 32 restaurants and tasted 279 new dishes. And here in New York, here's the map from research and the places that we visited as well. In total, we visited 38 new restaurants and tasted 411 new dishes. Our combined total between the two cities was 70 new restaurants and 690 new dishes. We are looking forward to getting back out to Los Angeles and reporting on that as soon as we're able to do so. Now on to the trends. Our first one is what I'm calling Mediterranean 2.0. You might recall in my last seminar how we discussed the emergence of Mediterranean cuisine after visiting many new restaurants that put these flavors in motion. Some of the things we highlighted were these bread boats from the Black Sea that made its way into Mediterranean concepts. The Georgian-style khachapuri is on the left, and the Turkish pita is on the right. Either style is an easy menu add to pizza operators or for any concept to introduce with quick work to shape these canoe-style flatbreads from dough balls. We also discussed how Meze, your Mediterranean shared plate style of dining, creates unique experiences, and how this cuisine is often healthy in nature with many vegetable-centric menu opportunities. When we look at this map from the Mediterranean basin, you see the concepts that we visited and where their cuisine hails from. With 21 Mediterranean countries spanning multiple continents, there seems to be limitless flavor combinations to create unique menu advantages. Just by chance, between Chicago and New York, we visited 16 new Mediterranean concepts that strongly indicates to us that this is a true menu opportunity with legs. What we will focus on this time around are the newest insights that we gleaned primarily from New York. One thing we quickly realized is that through these 21 countries, it's quite easy to establish a strong pantry just by ways of spices and spice blends, a lot of which can easily be utilized as bases for dips, sauces, and Mediterranean condiments. We will also look at how pita pockets have repositioned themselves as a go-to portable menu staple, and how regionally we have seen a growing popularity towards Mediterranean cuisines, specific to North Africa through the Levant. Climbing out of the pandemic, consumers have a newly awakened conscience towards healthy eating, but are still craving new flavors when dining out. And for many chefs, this is often a tough nut to crack, but Mediterranean cuisine seems to be the cheat code to satisfy consumer demand. For a point of reference, we're focusing on just the Maghreb region of North Africa, specific to Mediterranean countries of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. And to the Middle East, it's important to recognize that countries can be in fact considered Mediterranean-based and still part of the Middle East. We see this with countries like Egypt, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. And in between the smelting pot, whose cuisines have an affinity for each other, is the region of the Levant, producing Levantine cuisine. And here is a visual guide of spices and blends that I put together that encompasses Mediterranean cuisine. As you see, there is quite the portfolio of options that we have readily available, stocked through our dropship program in 1 pound shakers. This is a safe bet to get acquainted with these wonderful flavors with low risk to start ideating new menu items. Some key blends just to point out. Chermoula is a Moroccan spice blend that can be used to make a paste or a marinade and is great on seafood or vegetables. Dukkha seasoning is like Egyptian everything seasoning, made with nuts and seeds and spices like sumac. It's a great finisher on things like avocado toast, eggs, and dips. And Tunisian-style harissa, which you might already be familiar with, is a workhorse in Mediterranean kitchens. It's made with chilies, tomato, garlic, and warming spices, making it great for proteins and on vegetables too. On to rip and dips. Perhaps the easiest way to get behind Mediterranean-style cuisine is to implement it on your menu through dips, spreads, condiments, and sauces. It is through these additions that add a lot of flavor, most of which can be served cold, allowing advanced preparation. This, of course, is particularly great with breads of all forms. What we discovered through the wonderful Meze-styled share plates on research was that many places offered up authentic bread options to enhance the experience, and many dips and spreads could be found on the menu, so consumers could share and taste many new flavors. We also noticed how many of these places offered these dips and spreads in the front of the house for retail and grab and go, which we thought was smart, or a double dip. And here's some of the best examples. So at Fandi Mata in Brooklyn, this is their small meze platter. You see the mahamara, tzatziki, and baba ganoush. And I think this is great because it's visually appealing, but mahamara, which you might not be familiar with, is really similar to the Spanish-style romesco, but it's made with walnuts and some pomegranate molasses and a bunch of Aleppo pepper, making it that red color, and some chilies as well. But a wonderful dip to spread and to share, and that's why it's a meze. And on to Restaurant Nura in Brooklyn. This is their breads and dips. They make 2 different breads in-house. They have their garlic coriander naan and then their Parker House rolls. It's served with spiced carrots and white bean hummus, their blistered poblano hummus, and house-made yogurt. And then going on to Edis, also in Brooklyn and Williamsburg, wonderful delicatessen. You see the wonderful bagels that they have here. So this is their spread. They've got their Chicago-style bagel with everything seasoning. They've got their Baharat and golden raisin bagel, one with moldon salt, one with sesame, one with poppy. But look at all these spreads and dips, and here we'll identify them on this slide. You see all the spreads here, but the ones that I think that are most revealing or most engaging or interesting is the ones with plain labna or the labna with za'atar. They've got some roe with cream cheese. They've got trout roe on the side, and then they've got amba pickled shallots. All these are great for sharing and dips and spreads, getting this big box of bagels to go, and being able to share this amongst other people. And then at Mama Delia in Chicago, this is their variation of brandade, which I think is interesting and a unique find. So here they're making brandade with their conserva that they have in-house. So they sell conserva, macro conserva in the front of the house in retail, and then they also use it throughout the menu where they can. And here they're taking it instead of the salt-dried cod to make this brandade form with potatoes, served with a little bit of shishitos in the background, a wonderful thing to share. And then here is your kind of perfect meze collection spread. This is at Andros Taverna in Chicago. You got 3 different spreads here on the plate. The first one, their Santorini favas, which is pureed into that form almost like a hummus. Their scrodalia with octopus is made with potatoes, a little bit of octopus on top. And then terra masalata, which is that whipped cod roe like I talked about in the last presentation seminar. And I just love how it comes with different sorts of brochettes or calamari, and some olives and some crudité as well, all to share and to spread around. And then at Le Chouk, in Chicago, Here they have a hummus bowl, which, normally is something we're saying is, it's beyond hummus at this point. But what I liked about it is they chose the Baharat spice, which is one of the spices in the slides that we went through, to use and to season this beef mixture that they put on top of the hummus. So here you can take that pita bread, rip off a good hunk, take some spoonfuls of that hummus and beef and that labna on top and be able to make a really nice handheld. But they're also serving it with tahini and baba ganoush. That green chili mixture that's on top is that zug, really spicy pepper spread. And then furthermore, at a lot of these places, in addition to rip and dips and spreads you can buy, the condiments are a safe bet to be able to introduce as well. So you can enhance that experience by having these a la carte. Here you have hummus, the zug, the Israeli salad in the forefront, baba ganoush, and tahini. The restaurant Shukat, this is in New York as well. But what I really love about what they were doing was embracing this whole kind of rip and dip style, and this is where I got the name from. But their menu sections, right? When you dip by dip, we rip and rip this. So they're separating it out between their breads and their dips. Such a wonderful way to share this kind of meze style experience, and we had loads of fun being able to taste all these different sort of flavors. And let's look at some of those examples. So this is their labna, which is that strained Greek yogurt, but here they're adding so many different things to it and adding so many different textures, which we loved. So the pomegranate aerials on top, and they got scallion, some rosy harissa, and lime. And then their butternut squash chirshi, which is basically a kind of braised or cooked down squash that gets kind of jammy in texture. And they finish it with pomegranate molasses to kind of make it sweet and savory. And then they add a little bit of apricot jam on top with that urfa pepper as well. Additionally, this is their beet mutabel, and typically that's made with eggplant, but here they chose beet for that, which I think was great. And that was shredded, so it wasn't really a puree. It still had texture, and it was finished with some yogurt, dill, and cardamom. And onto their bread. So these are their rips. So they're making these in-house, which really enhances that experience, that authenticity. This is their farina bread, their Moroccan-style bread. You can see the roasted garlic on top and the fresh oregano, a little bit of olive oil. It was really, really delicious, almost similar to focaccia. And then this is their gazlame, which is a potato-style bread, almost like a Hot Pocket that was filled with cheese. A wonderful kind of bread just to rip and to, choose all those dips to use and enhance that experience. And on to accessories, kind of like we showcased at Lakshuk. Here at Shukat, they have all these wonderful accessories to be able to add and introduce throughout the menu through your tasting experience. They have their hot sauce they make in-house, tahini on the side that's blended with olive oil and cumin. And then they have some toum, which is Lebanese for garlic. It's really a garlic emulsion with olive oil and lemon. And then tzatziki, of course, their chumula, which we talked about a little earlier. And then white harissa that's blended with tahini, making it that white color. Pita pockets are back as a go-to staple with the resurgence of Mediterranean concepts opening. This is in part mainly to the growing popularity of the pita sabish and the pita arrayas. The sabish is an Israeli staple, typically filled with fried eggplant, an Israeli salad of tomatoes and cucumbers, and then finished with a hard-cooked egg. Well, the arrayas is, for lack of better terms, a lamb burger nested in a pita. Chefs have embraced the pita pocket today and are using it to innovate new portable handheld options on their menus. Let's look at some examples. So back at Edis in Williamsburg, this is their roasted root vegetable sabish. So again, it's their fresh take of making this Israeli staple. Here you see a whole bunch of different roasted root vegetables. And then I think what's interesting is that mahamara makes a play in here that we talked about earlier. They've got some labna in there. And then they have a 6-minute egg finished with za'atar. So instead of doing that hard-cooked egg, they've got that kind of fudgy yolk in there as a secondary sauce, and it's all, smushed into this wonderful carrier that New Yorkers can walk down the street and eat and enjoy. Additionally, Edis, they have a chicken schnitzel that's in a pita pocket. So they're breading the chicken cutlet with za'atar seasoning, and then they're serving it with garlic aioli, a little bit of that Israeli salad again, and some green cabbage. And if you want to do a different iteration of that, you can have their chickpea schnitzel. So again, that kind of fried cutlet instead of chicken with the usual suspects that we just talked about earlier. Back at Fandi Mata, this is their play on arrayas. So this is their kefta. So using more of that ground spice mixture with coriander into that lamb to be able to make that kind of burger concept we were talking about earlier, all stuffed inside that pita. And they serve on the side a little bit of an herb feta salad and tahini to add a secondary sauce. This is the Arrayas at Sammy and Susu in New York. And here's their lamb kind of burger tucked in their pita pocket. It's served with an amba aioli and that fermented red cabbage on the side. So just a great way to be able to enjoy that carrier, dip it in that amba aioli and be on your way. But it's not just for meat too, right? You can have vegetables in there as well. This is their cauliflower pita. And what I love about it are all the layers of flavor that they have in here. It makes you not miss the meat at all. So the raza halnout, they've got tahini, that zug, that spicy relish is in there. And again, that fermented cabbage comes into the pita pocket, making it just loads of flavor and loads of texture too. At Restaurant Rosemary in Chicago, this is their ciabatta handheld. So you have the ciabatta sausages tucked inside their lapinha, which is a kind of a play on that pita handheld that we're talking about. And it's filled with ajvar, which is that pepper spread, kajmak, which is Serbian soft cheese, and red onion for a little bit of texture and allium finish. And then at Restaurant Fia in Chicago, they call themselves the soul food of the Levant, which I love. And here they're serving that pita pocket all stuffed with the zug braised steak. So they have that spicy relish being part of that braising sort of process, adding and enhancing lots of flavor with chilies. And then you see that Israeli salad coming into play there with the tomatoes and the cucumbers. And this is served with matbucha, tahini, and then some wonderful chips on the side with za'atar seasoning. Back at Le Chouk, so this is their ceviche, and this is obviously to go, so it's kind of deconstructed in a way for a reason. But you see how it's served over a little bit of green tahini. It's got the pita in the back, Israeli salad off to the side, and just kind of deconstructed in a way to put it back together again and eat it if you're out and about taking it to go. And then on to the newest Korean street food ideas that we saw on research, which would be the Korean corn dogs. The end of 2021 was met with an uptick of Korean corn dog concepts opening, and we visited 3 of them in New York. The Korean version is much more unique in comparison to the ubiquitous American fare food staple we all know. This new street food item is made with a batter comprised of rice and wheat flours and leavened with yeast. The batter is thick and elastic, making these corn dogs crispy and chewy out of the fryer. From here, orders can be customized with choice fillings, like a half dog with half cheese, and most often they're finished with a dusting of sugar out of the fryer to provide a sweet and salty experience. We think this is a large opportunity with a blank canvas of ideas. Let's look at some of the examples. So here we are, 2 Hands in New York, and these are some of the things that we tasted. So the first one on the left, this is their standard beef sausage, and then this is the inside look of that, right? So the beef's inside. You see the kind of sugar glaze that goes over the top, so that's their sweet and salty way to play instead of just the dusted sugar. And then on the right-hand side, you see their half sausage, half mozzarella dog that's been dusted with a large amount of that spicy hot, flaming hot Cheeto powder, making it red in color. And you see the inside there, so that's obviously the side that doesn't have the hot dog because you see the cheese just kind of oozing out. And then on to the next one, which is their potato dog, which I think is really, really visually cool because you have the potato cubes that are rolled in the batter after it's been on the dog before it hits the fryer. So what you get are these, large, cubes that come out of the fryer that are stuck and makes it really interesting looking. And then they're adding different sorts of sauce on top, almost like a spicy aioli. And for this one, it's whole mozzarella only inside. To the next one, this is their crispy rice dog. So on top, not only is it a rice batter, but they have the rice pearls on top as well for an added crunch, a double crunch with texture. They have half sausage and half mozzarella inside there. And in this particular place at 2 Hands, you could say if you wanted light sugar or no sugar, or full sugar as far as the order goes to customize, which we thought was interesting from a concept perspective. And then this is just their classic. Their spicy beef dog with light sugar on top is how we ordered it, and you see the visual inside. Also, at 2 Hands, they came up with a soybean powder dog, which was really, really interesting, super, super savory, and then they top it with their sweet sauce as well to give you that sweet and salty balance. Going on to OK Dog. And they also serve Korean toast there as well, which was great. But we're focusing on just the dogs. You see some of their examples here, and these are great visuals. The top one being that squid ink half and half. So half squid ink dog with cheese also. And you can see the squid ink batter, which I love. So they're taking the squid ink, putting it in the batter, making it black, And then whimsically, they're taking, a knife and cutting, making small incisions in the bottom of the hot dog. So when it fries, it makes it look like what it's named after, being squid, right? Which is neat. Also, they have the sweet potato hot dogs. Instead of the regular potatoes like you see in the bottom, they're using sweet potatoes. And here they're dusting that one with cinnamon sugar instead of regular sugar to play off the sweet potato balance there, which I thought was great. And also at Django Rice Hot Dog in Brooklyn, we had a 5-piece box from there. And here you see what we ordered from inside Django. Here we've got an all-beef hot dog on the left with those potatoes again, a little bit different in size, cubes, which we thought was interesting. And then also on the right-hand side, this is a volcano hot dog. So they've got a sausage that's made with chicken and pork. And then they have a little bit of heat with that as well to make it that kind of volcano experience of sweet and heat. And then on the right, this was an interesting one. None of the other concepts offered this one, but this was the ramen noodle chip hot dog. So instead of rolling it in like the potatoes like we see on the left-hand side, they're rolling it in crushed up dry ramen noodles. So that's becoming that textural element when it comes out of the fryer, and just the regular hot dog that's inside. And then on the right-hand side of that, this is their cheddar cheese hot dog. So just an all beef wrapped in cheddar cheese. And then lastly, of course, you have to have a triple cheese hot dog. So all beef hot dog they've got cheese sauce in there over the top with some shredded cheese, as well as the stick of cheese that goes in the inside. So lots of cheese, lots of great stuff there. Additionally, from a Korean street food perspective, we're on to Dalgona candy. Over COVID, social media captivated consumers into wanting new things that weren't on their radars. The Korean-style whipped coffee is made by whisking together instant coffee granules, sugar, and water until it becomes the consistency of whipped cream and served over your favorite ice milk. Today, Dalgona candy has yet again established itself into mainstream thanks to the September 2021 release of the Korean Netflix series Squid Games. The candy is made by melting sugar with baking soda, which reacts into a whipped caramel consistency. As the show depicts, it is then pressed into wafer-thin rounds, followed by an etched outline design of a shape in its center using a cookie cutter. In New York, many restaurants rode the coattails of the show's success and capitalized on weaving Dalgona candy on their menus. With the recent news of a second season for the wildly popular series, there is still time to cash in on the sales-building menu opportunity. Let's look at some of these examples. At Restaurant Yubu in New York, this is their Dalgona candy. When you walk into their really quaint, basically takeout window, you see this on the shelves. So they have Dalgona candy, front and center in these glass jars, which we thought was really interesting. Gave us a nod to find it on the menu. And as we ordered it, they had it into drink formats. So they had Dalgona milk coffee that they served with almond milk. And you see on top, basically these kind of rock formations of Dalgona candy that's sprinkled over the top. And as these sit in the coffee, this iced coffee, and get saturated, they slowly kind of blend into sweetening up the coffee a little bit further. Or you could take one out and just eat it, kind of almost like a toffee or something along those lines that has a crunchy texture. And then they had milk tea. So, very similar, same kind of style of service, same texture on top. We're letting it blend in to make it sweetened. Just a really unique experience having Dalgona candy, infused into beverage. Across town in Brooklyn at Moki Moki, here they took advantage of the opportunity by doing a Dalgona candy glaze over the top of it. And then you see a few pieces staggered throughout the bottom there of the Dalgona candy as a textural topping as well. So really unique way to innovate using what they're making in-house to enhance further incremental sales by capitalizing off the show. And then this is just your standard, right? This is what you saw on the show. This is an afternoon in Brooklyn. Here they were serving just the tins straight up. You could buy them at $10 a piece. And hard to tell, but on the very bottom right one, you can see the little pin, the pin head at the bottom with the orange head on there. And that's used for just like the game to be able to etch out the design to see if you can compete and win. But there was a lot of people that were lining up to get these things as kind of souvenirs, as an homage to the show. So a really easy way to make $10 off a sale and have it in the case in the front. On to frozen novelties. Our street-level research discovered newly opened concepts putting out frozen novelty must-haves. Fear of missing out is real, and these slushies and soft serve one-offs couldn't be missed. As you look through kind of slushies and soft serve, you see a whole bunch of whimsical things that come out of it, but because a lot of these concepts that we saw and visited, they were singly focusing on just one dessert, one slushie, one soft serve, that when we looked through the menu at dessert, we could not deny the fact that we had to try it. There was so much intrigue, so many different layers of flavor, savory stirrings as it comes to the soft serve. I mean, this is a huge sales building opportunity, and I think it's something to look at. So let's look at these examples. At Restaurant Fuku in New York, David Chang's fast food fried chicken concept, his Fuku Colada slushie. So he had 2 big tanks in the front at checkout of just this one slushie rolling. And obviously you look at it and you say, well, I should probably get one of these. They have a lot of it and it must be selling well. Here's their slushie that's made with pineapple, orange juice, coconut cream, simple syrup, and then it gets a nice dusting of fresh nutmeg on top. It really takes you to someplace tropical pretty quickly. And then back at Edis, this is probably one of the most Instagrammable slushies today, or maybe of all time, I'm not sure. But their cold brew slushie, when you look at it, it looks almost like it's separated, but it also looks really, really cool. But it's separated in a way because of the ingredients, which makes a really unique mouthfeel and experience when you're actually consuming it. So it's cold brew, it's got tahini and oat milk. So the different fats from the tahini and the milk, as it mixes in these sort of slushy machines, what happens is it doesn't really mix well. So you get pockets of frozen things from water, and then you get the fats that don't mix with water well. And it kind of separates in a way to have this kind of frozen mouthfeel experience that is super unique. And I think just the way it looks is one of the main reasons why it's all over Instagram today, but it was also super delicious. And then back at Two Hands, they had one slushie in the menu in New York, which was a horchata slush. So your standard horchata with rice milk and cinnamon and simple syrup, but in a slushy format. And so when you go there and you get a Korean corn dog, why not have a horchata slush at the same time? It just kind of goes hand in hand. At M Vietnamese Bistro in New York, this was actually in Brooklyn, they had 2 different sorts of slush on the menu, and they were all made with fresh fruits. So not a whole lot of different ingredients in here, but really, really delicious at the same time. They had their watermelon slushie made with fresh watermelon, and then their pineapple express just with pineapple juice, mint leaves, and lime. So super, super delicious. Even it was in the middle of winter, people were selling slushies by ones or twos or just a singular concept or singular item on their menu, and people were buying it. People were loving it. And back at Chouquette, this is their mic drop tahini soft serve. And if you look at this thing, it just looks monumental, right? A lot going on. They have candied butternut squash flanking off to the left-hand side. They've got halva floss, which is your tahini confectionery that's almost like cotton candy. They've got a little bit of hazelnut oat milk, which is part of making the soft serve process. And again, all these different sort of textures and stir-ins and savory and sweet makes it super unique, and that's why it's the mic drop, right? It's something that you just have to have. People are going crazy over it. It's the only soft serve thing they have on the menu. It's hard to pass up, and they're getting $12 for it. Granted, this is in New York, but that's the idea, right? Having that one single maybe menu item that could be soft serve on your menu that people just can't deny. They have to get it. They have to buy it. You have to create that demand. And then at Kamika in New York, this is a Italian-Japanese mashup concept. So the Yakult soft serve. Yakult is a Japanese probiotic milk drink that they're using as the base of their soft serve here, which makes it unique in the first place. Then they have some roasted Concord grapes in there. They have a kimchi caramel, and then crispy chicken skin streusel on top with peanut brittle. So you talk about sweet and savory. They have it all going on here. And I tell you, I could have probably eaten 3 of these at the same sitting because it was just so delicious. That sweet and savory combination just had it all going on. And then all the textures that they had on top, it just really, really made it so enjoyable to have. And then lastly, at Gaijin in Chicago, this is their Shirokuma. So one of the things they do really well there for dessert are their shaved ice concoctions. So here they have a shaved ice, and what do? They make it into a bear, of course. And they serve it, with the pineapple buttermilk sherbet, and the front is the nose. They got 2 cookies for ears. And then what they serve it on the side with some warmed up coconut syrup that you can pour over, or they'll do it on table side. to pour over the bear, and kind of sadly it melts away a little bit, and you get left with a little bit of the macerated cherries for the eyes and the nose. But an awesome experience that people see in the dining room that make you want to buy this thing, or you see it all over social. This, videos, quick clips of the shirikuma bear and the hot syrup slowly melting and fading away. And it's just a cool, unique experience, also delicious at the same time, and $13 is what they're getting for this one. So we thought it was a really, really unique thing to have. Onward to dosas. The Southern Indian dosa is riding the next wave of innovation, drawing attention to this street food staple. This thin crepe-like carrier consists of just rice, lentils, and water, making it gluten-free and vegan. The batter is typically made with soaked white rice and ivory white lentils that are pureed with water to form a thick paste and left to ferment. It is then spoodled onto a hot tava or crepe-like pan, or even flat top, in a circular motion. As it cooks, the rings from applying the batter become pronounced, and from here, the opportunities are endless with seasonings, sauces, and fillings spanning all the day parts. Fresh from the pan, the crispy rice and white lentil structure is pliable, allowing the dosa to be quickly manipulated into half folds, pockets, cylindrical roll-ups, and even cones. From the tava to the table, dosas are a ripe opportunity for menu differentiation. Let's look at some of the examples. So this was probably the first example that we saw in research back in 2018. And I'm only calling this out because with things that we see on our radar, they sometimes take a while to percolate and become popular or more mainstream. And through the years, we have seen dosas now expand into more mainstream concepts, into fast casual concepts. And I think it's something to take notice of and to call out. So we want to show these examples to get your minds going and thinking about how you can introduce this onto your menus. But here, this is for breakfast. This is a breakfast dosa at ABCV. And inside that dosa that's folded over in half, much like a crepe, they've got Swiss chard, some fried egg, and za'atar seasoning, which is something that we talked about earlier in the Mediterranean style section. But again, a really, really great way to introduce this to brunch with eggs or any sort of sweet or savory filling a la crepe. And also at Sona in New York. This is off our latest research in 2022. Here they have their Gruyere cheese dosa. And what's cool about it, and like I called out in the intro, basically when it's pliable, you can create these shapes and pockets, and here's the cone, which I think is cool. And what they're doing with the cone is they're hiding something underneath of it, which is kind of that dining experience, right? So underneath it, they have basically an edamame mash, and then they have coconut and roasted tomato chutneys on the side for dipping. So classically, it'd be taking this dosa and ripping it, and then being able to use the condiments and the mash for secondary things to be able to dip into and to be able to enjoy and to share. So in this case, it's more of a shared plate idea. And I just love the cone. I love how it's hiding something. It's part of that experience. Super unique. At restaurant Sema in New York, this is their gunpowder dosa. Gunpowder is just talking about the spices specifically that is in that batter to make it spicy and also elevated with warming spices. But much like over at Sona, they're also kind of hiding something into this pocket. But here they're doing it more of in a triangular format, which I think is great. You can see the circles on the bottom right-hand picture, because that's the presentation side. So as we had talked about, putting that batter down on a tava or a non-stick pan or a flat top, and that circular motion, much like you're doing adding sauce to a pizza crust before it goes into the oven. When it bakes or cooks in, it makes those rings around the dosa as it cooks, and it makes that really cool kind of design at the same time. But after coming out of the pan, that's your chance to be able to fold it up, be able to create different shapes. And here they're filling it with that rice, with that potato masala, and then the sambar on the side for kind of that dipping, that chutney sort of aspect there. But again, really, really cool plate presentation, really cool way to make that experience different. And again, just like Sona, something you would rip and share and pass around to people at the table. Also at Sema, I'm calling this one out because this is a slight variation of a dosa. This is a kale dosa. So instead of doing it in a pan in that circular format over high heat, this would be putting the batter in a pan and letting it steam. So basically it gets almost like these little air hole pockets from the steaming, and it makes it a little bit more chewy in texture instead of crisp. And for here, they're serving it with their snails, the peconic snails from New York, with ginger tamarind and a little bit of crunch from some coconut flakes on top. There is a huge opportunity to quickly increase sales through zero-proof beverages. From handcrafted lemonades to new takes on coffee and tea, the opportunities are endless, right? This is the incremental sale that you want to have. And there's a lot of different places you can play in this space. So today, a portion of this is going to be on the functional, healthy side of these beverages, playing into what consumers are asking for. And then a lot of these are color enhancers. A lot of these are powders being used to attract and to be able to serve and provide sort of that healthy format as well. Or some of it's even that nostalgic stuff, like we were talking about with slushies previously, right? Gets people to want to buy into that kind of, childlike demeanor from things that they recognize of the past. And of course, this is great for grab and go all day. This is the sale that you want to look at. So the first thing we're going to talk about are powders. So things that we can sell you today that are easily able to be stirred in or shook up into a beverage to create a different color really simply, quickly, and efficiently. And a lot of these powders are things that we either stock or that we have in our dropship program, and they make very beautiful presentations and add that healthy attribute at the same time. So let's look at some of these powders. As you see here, you got bee pollen powder, matcha, pitaya, which is your dragon fruit, charcoal powder, which makes things black, butterfly pea powder. That, when you add it to any sort of citric acid like lemonade, it turns it purple. Otherwise, it would be blue in just any sort of other liquid. So that really makes some intriguing, beverages. And then blue spirulina, of course, makes a great blue sort of drink. And then things like cocoa powder and moon milk add sort of a host of benefits as well. So you have aptogenic or functional stir-ins or adds. A lot of these are mushroom-based. So cordyceps and reishi and lion's mane and chaga, ashwagandha, all these things have properties that are either cognitive functions that enhance how you can process. A lot of people add that to coffee in the morning time with their caffeine, or things that provide more tranquility, things that help immune systems. A lot of these things are now falling into beverage categories, especially in the morning time as it relates to coffee service. And of course, some of the latest beverage innovation items that I think are helping along the process this way are things like your nitro whipper. So be able to add nitrous to beverages and make them more aerated or make them have that almost like viscous quality. And then the blend tech blenders, which I'm calling out here, one of the concepts we went to in Chicago, you're probably accustomed to putting a blender base on a blender. Well, this one allows you to use the cup that you're serving in to have no waste and not have to wash a blender at the same time. So prep ahead with all your ingredients for smoothies, put them in the freezer, in that same cup you're going to serve it in, put it in the blend tech, let it spin, and voila, you have a smoothie ready to go. And then just things like some of these syrups from Monin, which I think are great as we think about health-driven trends. Their immunity boost syrup, their energy boost syrup for caffeine. All these have no added sugar, but a whole host of benefits that are added throughout the syrups from vitamins and other enhancements. So here's some examples. So first off, a field trip in New York, this is their dragon fruit lemonade. And much like the smoothies that we saw at places that had the big tanks, kind of aerating this in the front and kind of captivating you with these colors. But of course, it makes sense if you're going to have a lemonade, you might as well have an Arnold Palmer as well, which in case they did, side by side. And a great way to add, another sale onto your menu. At Sammy and Susu in New York, this is their pomegranate lemonade. So this was that kind of Mediterranean concept that we had visited, and the pomegranate makes it such a wonderful color. And pomegranate's one of those juices that if you add to either water, making it a water-based beverage, or just lemonade in general, it will make that color pretty quickly. So a little bit goes a long way to enhance the color of the product, so kind of limited cost. But lemonades are probably the easiest way for you to introduce something into your menu, getting outside of that water format or soda format that maybe you already have. Look at all these lemonades. Here's another example. So at Chef Katsu in Brooklyn, this is their iced yuzu mint lemonade, yuzu being that Japanese citrus, a little bit more floral to regular standard lemons that we have here most of the time. And then they're finishing it with just some a little bit of fresh mint there that's been smushed up to activate those oils and to enhance the lemonade. But again, a quick incremental sale to have and super refreshing at the same time. And then back at Fuku in New York, this is their yuzu lemonade. So just like the previous slide, here they're using yuzu lemons in place of standard lemons to make a really refreshing beverage. And then at Matcha in Chicago, whole concept driven around matcha, which is one of those powders we talked about in the forefront. But here they're adding yuzu and matcha together to make their limonada. So really, really unique in color, how it's separated and poured into, and delicious and healthy at the same time. Furthermore, at Gaijin, they have their hibiscus fizz, which is unique on its own. But to the right is their matcha lemonade. So really simply taking a lemonade, could be store-bought, and then adding just matcha powder to it, mixing it up, whisking it up, or shaking it. And here you have this wonderful, vibrant green color for their lemonade, and also delicious at the same time. At Lost Larson in Chicago, this is their Scandinavian-style bakery concept. And to play off of that Scandinavian-style menu, here they have lingonberries and hibiscus coming into their lemonade. And again, you get that beautiful red color, makes it completely unique from other lemonades that we saw as you see here. And we just love that it had more of a tart flavor and wasn't super sweet, and we just love the color as well. At Kasama, this could be my favorite lemonade of all time, calamansi lemonade. So Kasama in Chicago has a strong Filipino kind of sliding into their cuisine. And calamansi, being that Filipino-based kind of citrus element here, it's almost like a cross between a Meyer lemon, a lime, and a tangerine all coming together. So it has a really, really unique citrus flavor. And here they're taking that and making it their lemonade, which is super unique. It's the only place I saw calamansi lemonade being made, and it was delicious. At restaurant Orkenroy in Chicago, this is their butterfly pea flower lemonade. Like we talked about before, adding just a really, really small amount, we're talking half a teaspoon maybe, into this beverage, whisking it up or shaking it up with lemonade. It turns it from yellow into purple in just seconds. And it's super, super interesting in color. It's delicious at the same time, and just captivates people in the dining room, right? You see this purple lemonade walking past you, and people all of a sudden want to order lemonade. Another easy menu add, Rick Bayless in Tortazo. Here they're doing agua frescas. They have a hibiscus one, which they're calling Jamaica on the left, and then a mango version on the right? So just a little bit of puree or juice, a little bit of sugar, water, really simple to make agua frescas, really colorful in this case, really attractive, easy menu add. And now Uncooked in Chicago. This is the place that I was talking in reference to the BlendTech blenders. These are some of the smoothies that we ordered and some of the cool ingredients that they're using. All their smoothies were made with almond milk and then monk fruit for a sweetener. Monk fruit because it's unprocessed sugars, and that's kind of their whole kind of concept, being uncooked. But their fuel in the top left is a pretty standard avocado, cauliflower, kale. Protein powder is an add. They're almighty acai, which is still around as a great ingredient, superfood, blueberries, banana, and then the ashwagandha comes into play there that we had talked about as one of those powders. Their cleanse, which is the mango, cucumber, kale, Granny Smith apple. Their glow, mango, banana, and turmeric, which is helping give it that really wonderful yellow color. And then their beauty booster, Irish moss. So some seaweed coming into play here. Banana, MCT oil, so medium chain triglyceride oil. Raspberries, making it that wonderful red color. Right, all those wonderful ingredients that they're using to enhance and to provide value into these smoothies. And additionally, they have a la carte options that you can add into the smoothies, which is super smart. If you're ready to have them on your menu somewhere baked into one of your menu examples, might as well put them out there for people to enhance what you already have and pay extra dollars to customize. So here, look at all these examples. So the cordyceps, the lion's mane, CBD, different protein powders, MCT oil, ashwagandha, turmeric, charcoal powder, Irish moss, matcha, or even espresso for a kick of caffeine. I mean, all these are great, super great menu adds to have already, woven through the menu at some other point, and a great way for consumers to be able to get what they want and they're willing to pay for it. Back at Edis, I love this example, their Baharat spice cider. So Baharat is one of those spices we called out earlier in the Mediterranean section. And it is really similar to, in a lot of ways, like mulling spices that we're familiar with to make cider or mulled wine. Has a lot of those warming spices in there. And so what they're doing is using that to mull and make their cider. So taking something as simple as apple juice and this Baharat seasoning, putting it in, bringing it up to a simmer, shutting it down, letting it kind of bloom out in there, and then straining it, and now you have Baharat cider. So a really great way to add value, especially in the warmer months, or do it cold over ice. You could have that as a spice cider, or give it to your bar to put into some sort of alcoholic beverage as well. And then at Sammy and Susu, we came across a couple different examples of bone broth. Bone broth is something that we had talked about a few years ago at this point as a concept to take notice of, especially for grab and goes. And a lot of concepts had been created since then, doing solely broth as their entire concept of menu. And just like the smoothie example we showed you beforehand, a lot of these places are adapting into that same style format with a lot of plus ones, a lot of customization opportunities with things like here with this chicken broth, garlic and turmeric are added in here. But you could order all different sorts of things, from collagen powder to lemon to you name it is on the menu. Just like the smoothie example, you could plus one. At Uncooked, this is another great retail program that they had here. So you see these wonderful glass pints that they have. Couple different things that we took notice of and that we tried and really enjoyed. Their first one is their cold brew. So they're taking their lion's mane powder, their mushroom powder, they're adding it into their cold brew with some oat milk and some monk fruits for sweetness. And then their lemonade. We already talked about lemonade, but this is the only example that I had for you for the activated charcoal. But here you see it, makes it super dark. And then they have the lemon and that goes in there, and then their apple cider. So almost like a tonic in a way. They've got raw apple cider vinegar. They've got Ceylon cinnamon, which is much more different than what we're used to. It doesn't have as much of a pungency to it. And then the monk fruit, again for sweetener, makes this great kind of tonic. And then M Vietnamese Bistro, we loved what they were doing here with their house-made Vietnamese coffee. So just having that being Vietnamese standard menu. Here they're importing Vietnamese coffee beans, saying that, hey, we're going to have Vietnamese coffee here. You're not going to be able to get that just anywhere. Enhancing their brand, bringing that to the table for people to enjoy and have that wonderful experience while they're eating Vietnamese cuisine. At Wake and Bacon in Chicago, they have a really strong Filipino slant to a lot of their menu items. And for their beverage here, Purple Haze, they're adding that ubi mix in the bottom to make that purple color. So that purple yam comes into play here. And then just love the layers that they have with the oat milk and then just the iced coffee, making it really, really attractive and super interesting. Only place you're probably going to find that. Back at Chef Katsu, the Hoji Cha Latte. So the Hoji tea is a green tea, much like matcha. The only difference really is that this preparation is roasted. So what you get here is a darker color, not that vibrant green color, but a way different flavor of complexity than matcha has. And I think this Hoji Cha is going to be the next sort of matcha wave coming soon. So I would take notice of that. But again, another powder format to be able to add into something like a latte here for differentiation, and something you certainly want to take notice of as a real simple menu add. And now we're on to our last category, which is Filipino cuisine. We have seen Filipino cuisine break out over the years and become more and more into mainstream concepts. So when we look at breaking down Filipino cuisine and why it's so enticing, we want to look at a few different key perspectives on this. So first of all, we've seen key ingredients become folded into wonderful categories of menus, and then also look at different segments of the menus as well. But we've seen it from fast casual to dessert preparations to pastry to sandwiches and handhelds. And a lot of those key ingredients are around ube, so your purple yam, calamansi, which is a very, very common marinade in Filipino cuisine, which encompasses vinegar and soy sauce and garlic and usually some chili as a marinade. And then calamansi. Calamansi is a wonderful citrus fruit. You might not have heard of it, but we did reference it last in the beverage section with that wonderful lemonade from Kasama. And that citrus fruit is going to be flavored like, your Meyer lemon meets a tangerine meets a lime. So very, very unique. And then some of the proteins that we'll talk about, the longanisa and the tocino, and obviously that lumpia fried spring roll that everybody's probably seen. And just wonderful opportunities in beverage like we talked about earlier. So we'll look at some of the best examples of that. So at Kasama, you're going to see a few iterations of breakfast examples here, and this one being the breakfast sandwich. What I really like about this one in particular is they're using that longanisa sausage. That is your Filipino ground pork sausage. You can get it in bulk, or you can get it, casing on. This is their skinless option. So they're using their bulk product to be more like a patty, and here they're doing it more like a smash burger concept in a hot griddle. Here they have, obviously your kind of folded omelet over the top with American cheese and a soft squishy bun. I mean, it's just a really, really good breakfast staple. But you'll be able to see how longanisa is applicable to a lot of different ways through the menu, especially in breakfast. And further at Wake and Bacon, here they have a bacon flight. And one of the other things that's common in Filipino cuisine is tocino. And tocino is your cured bacon or your cured pork belly that's used with annatto seed. Annatto seed being that red vibrant seed that you can use as a paste, and it makes that bacon that you see in the middle super red, and also enhances the flavor. And their bacon flight here showcases that tocino as well as some other wonderful flavorings. And what you're going to see further is different examples of some of those proteins coming into play. Back at Kasama, this is their breakfast bowl. Here they have their longanisa sausage and tocino lumped together here. And then obviously you have some rice for that rice bowl format, a sunny side egg, and a pickled kind of papaya salad, or achara as they would call it. And just some wonderful garnishes as well. But super vibrant, fresh, enticing. This could be for breakfast or lunch, I feel. So great opportunity there. And then another bowl, this is more so on the meatless mindset, if you exclude the egg. But their mushroom adobo is compensating for the protein here, being that tocino and the longanisa that we saw. So they're using the adobo, again, that citrus or vinegar-based marinade with soy sauce, garlic, and chilies, to marinate and cook down those mushrooms to give you that texture a la like a protein. And then the usual suspects of the papaya salad and the rice come into the fold with the egg. And then back at Wake and Bacon, this halo-halo. Halo-halo is Filipino for mix. And really that is a typical popular dessert in the Philippines. But here they're doing it with a different example for breakfast. So we're all familiar with chia seed pudding by now. And what they're doing is making their mix in the format with the chia seed pudding as the base. They're folding in some of that coconut jelly to make it more and more Filipino-esque. And then they're adding in, obviously, some wonderful fruit. But I love the whimsical play with the fruity pebbles on top because it adds so much texture and character, and obviously a bunch of wonderful color as well. So this was just a really great play on halo-halo. And then at Wake and Bacon as well in Chicago, this is their ubi flapjack stack. So ubi, as I talked about earlier, that purple yam that's common in Filipino cuisine. And a lot of people these days, from a speed scratch element, they're using, ube powder or ube extract. And it's something you can buy to very simply add into, in this case, your flapjack batter to make it purple, extract or powder format. And just this wonderful purple color, this huge flapjack that you see here, just wonderful differentiation. And then obviously you have the eggs. And on top, they have more of that wonderful tocino-style bacon, which is great to fold into the menu as well. And then furthermore, at Kasama in Chicago, here they have one of their pastries, their ube and huckleberry boss cake. So it's more or less a pound cake that uses the purple yam as part of the pastry element. And then at Kasama, they're lumpia Shanghai. So lumpia, your super crispy, shattery Filipino pork spring rolls, are very, very common, ubiquitous in Filipino cuisine. Here they're just doing a typical treatment, which is going to have pork and cabbage and things like that nestled inside here, served with the chili sauce on the side for dipping. And then at Booney Foods in Revival Food Hall of Chicago, this is really a classic Filipino dish with the chicken leg quarters here being braised in that adobo marinade we referenced before, really giving it that dark color, that caramelization of that soy sauce and vinegar with some sugar. And here they have it more of like a rice bowl setup. This is set up to go, obviously. So you've got the rice on the bottom, and then the side you have some more of that mushroom adobo salad and a fried egg off to the side flanking that. So just a really great hearty portion here of really great chicken. And then back at Kasama, we always say when we see a trend happening and coming into fruition or coming to light, it's oftentimes being I don't want to say Americanized, but being brought into something that is very, very common and approachable to people. So in Chicago, the land of Italian beef sandwiches, it only makes sense for them to introduce more Filipino flavor through that same kind of mindset. So their Kasama combo sandwich, it's got the longanisa and it has their shaved pork on it that was braised down in adobo. And then the usual suspects that you would find for that, style of Italian beef sandwich. The giardiniera on top, like you would find in Chicago. And then flanking off to the side, they have adobo jus for dipping, just like the same format for Italian beef. So I love their play on it. It was super, super delicious and approachable to most Chicagoans or anybody following through to be able to try something and get, embraced with Filipino flavors. And then similarly at Wake and Bacon in Chicago, this was their adobo Philly dip. So cut from the same cloth as the previous slide. Here they're doing it like a Philly style on the flat top with their adobo marinated chicken. And then they have their adobo au jus on the side. They've got their cheese and peppers. They got some tots in the background as well. But again, this is just approachable to most American dining consumers, and it's a great way for them to be introduced to those Filipino flavors. And this will continue to grow, and you'll see that extend out to more and more menus as it becomes more and more popular and mainstream, right? And then furthermore, of course, a taco format is going to come into play here. So at Booney Foods, they offer 3 or 4 wonderful tacos based on Filipino cuisine. So here they have their longanisa inside the taco. They cook the sunny side eggs into the tortilla shells when they have it on the flat top, and then it gets draped. Some Filipino chili sauce gets draped over the top, and on the side they have more of that calamansi adobo sauce for dipping, which is great with that taco. And then a different iteration of that, this is more so on the meatless format, minus the egg here. They're supplementing that for that mushroom adobo salad that we've referenced in previous slides. It gives you that texture again that's going to be similar to protein or meat. And here they have some grilled eggplant in there as well, and some chili sauce and the adobo dip as well off to the side. And that concludes my seminar today. I hope that reviewing these concepts has been helpful to you and that they can assist you in developing new menu ideas for your business. Once again, my name is Chef Nate Gonring. It was a pleasure bringing this information to you today, and I want to thank you for your time and attention. And of course, on behalf of the entire Gordon Food Service team, I want to thank you for your business. Have a great day and keep cooking and creating.